Hey everyone, Jordan here from ThatCarLife, and today I'm going to be telling you guys the story of my 95 Honda Civic EG, which wasn't a usual Civic. It had a DC2 Type R engine swap in it. It was absolutely insane. It was crazy fast and a whole lot of fun. And I'm going to be telling you guys the story of how I got it, what happened when I owned it, and why I sold it as well. So stay tuned, kick back, relax, and let's get into it. So as some of you guys may know, my very first car was a Honda Integra DC2, otherwise known as Veronica, and this thing was very special as well. So it was a VTIR DC2, which meant it came from the factory with a B18C2 VTEC. It's not as crazy as a Type R engine, but it's still a B series VTEC, and it was a whole lot of fun. And for some very dumb reason, after 3 years of ownership, I decided to sell it. So after selling that, I decided to buy a Subaru Impreza, and it wasn't even like an RS, it was like a 2-liter luxury version. I don't even know what I was thinking. Why would I sell my Integra for that? I don't know, but I did it for some reason. Look, don't get me wrong, it was a nice car and it was really clean, and it would have made for a really good daily as well. It had like 89,000 Ks, like stupid low kilometers, leather seats, sunroof, all that stuff. So it was a clean car, it was a nice car to drive around in, but it just didn't give me that like fun factor. It never put a smile on my face like my Integra did, and no matter what I tried, I couldn't get that same enjoyment out of it. And some of you OJs may know, this car is actually on the YouTube channel, along with my DC2 as well. They're both on the YouTube channel. So you can actually see some videos back in the day on my DC2 and my Subi. So I tried to do some things to make it a bit more enjoyable and make me like it more. For example, I actually have a video on this channel, I'll link it here, where I did 17-inch WRX wheels on it, so you can check that out there. But that's all I really filmed on that car for the channel. I did an exhaust system separately. I didn't do a video on it. I had a WRX catback that I got custom fit onto the car. And yeah, I'll show you guys a video of it, which as I said, I didn't upload to the channel, but here's what it sounded like. So yeah, I don't know, it didn't sound like amazing, but I tried to make it sound as good as I possibly could. So here's basically what it looked like before I sold it. So yeah, it had the black WRX wheels on it, it had the WRX exhaust custom fitted to it. And yeah, look, it didn't look too bad, but as I said, I just did not have that wow factor. So after a few months, I ended up selling this thing too. So after I sold the Subi, I was looking to get back to my roots and get into another Honda, because I really missed that fun factor. I missed having VTEC, and I wanted to experience that again. So I was on the hunt for another Honda. No matter what it was, I just wanted another Honda with VTEC. So I was having a look, there wasn't really any clean DC2s around, and to be honest, I kind of wanted to try a different Honda. Like if there was a really good DC2 for sale, I would have gotten it, but I wanted to kind of try something different. So I had a look at an EM1 Civic Coupe, which wasn't the cleanest. I was having a look at potentially getting an EK or an EG, keeping my options open, but having a look to see what was out there. And one day I was scrolling through Facebook and I ended up coming across the ad for my EG Civic, which I would end up buying. And I still have the screenshots from that ad, so I'll show you guys what it looked like now. So just having a look at the ad now, as you can see, the price is kind of cut off there, but he had it up for around $7,200 to $7,500. But it did have quite an extensive mod list. So as you can see, it had a full B18C7 engine conversion out of a DC2 Type R, had the 5-speed LSD gearbox, it had the Pro Series Skunk 2 intake manifold, it had a Honda ECU and launch control tuned to 4,000 RPM. So cool. It had semi-slick tires, slotted rotors. Like this thing was proper. It was a proper Honda. And back then, you might be thinking, wow, that's such a cheap price for all of that stuff. Right now, if you're looking at this kind of mod list and this kind of car, right now in the current market, all of this would go for around 18 to 20 grand straight up. But back in 2017, this was how much you could buy a Honda as EJ Civic with all of these mods done to it. And this back then was considered expensive. People used to say to me, you spent a lot of money on that. Like I wouldn't pay that much for a Honda. Like back then, people thought this was a lot. But nowadays, obviously we're looking back and this was really cheap. Don't worry, I'll tell you guys soon what I ended up buying it for. But yeah, as you can see in the photos, I could see it had Recaros, it had the engine swap, it had a front lip and some nice wheels and stuff. So it had the engine stuff, the outside looked really cool. And I was very, very keen to have a look at this car because it looked like the entire package. It was basically like the ultimate Honda. And I could afford it too, because I sold my Subaru for a decent amount. I sold it for like 7 grand. And yeah, this was around 7 grand as well. So I thought I could literally go straight into this. So the price matched up, all the mods matched up, and it was just a matter of going to have a look at it now. All right, guys, so to tell you the story of how we got the EG Civic, I'm here with none other than Chris, aka EK She. Did my EG Civic buying experience, did that inspire you to get a Civic? Because what have we got here?
This is a 1997 EK4.
And you got this, was that last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago, I think it was.
And it was definitely from my Civic. That was 100% what made you want to get it.
Yeah.
Basically, Chris took me there on that day to get my EG Civic, and it was an experience, wasn't it? It wasn't like normal. What happened?
It was a very different experience picking up a car for the first time.
So like we head down there, and then like we get to the area. I forgot what it was called, but like
Glendale or something.
I don't know. But like it was a bit dodged. Like there's all these like
10 minutes off the highway.
Yeah.
Like one of the most dangerous areas in Sydney.
Straight up, there was like all these like rundown houses with like dirt bikes outside. All these undercover riot police everywhere.
Every house had minimum 2 dirt bikes, no plates on it too.
Yeah.
There was like a bunch of FPVs everywhere.
Yeah, like all these undercover cops were like, what the hell? Like, where are we? Anyway, so it was a bit dodgy. We were like, okay, this is a bit, how you going? Yeah. And then we turn up to the house, and then we tell the guy that we're outside, and then you saw the car coming out of the garage.
So the house was on an elevated piece of land, and the driveway had like a large slope. So as he's pulling it down, he goes over the small bump as it initially slopes. The roof of the car, the lining of the car then collapses in. He just had to punch it back in there. And at that moment, Jordan went, this is my dream car.
Yeah, Chris literally just sees the headliner drop, and then the guy just punching it in.
Yeah.
And I think you turned to me and you're like, Jordan, this isn't the car.
I was like, this is not the way to go.
But despite that, anyway, he brings the car out. I have a look around it. I should have seen it as a red flag that I didn't see the car start myself. It was like already running when we got there, but in the garage. So I should have seen that as a red flag, but I didn't. Anyway, we go for a test drive, and Chris, you stayed back with his mate at the house, I think.
I was waiting around.
Yeah, so I do the test drive, driving around, and then he's like, oh, try out launch control. I'm like, oh yeah, sick. So I do launch control, see all this smoke and everything. I just think it's the tires, but later on in the video, we'll tell you what that smoke actually was, well, most of it. But anyway, so I get back from the test drive and negotiated, and I think he had it up for like 7 grand, and I paid 6.5 grand for it, which was a lot back then. Like everyone would say, fuck, that's so much money to spend on a Honda, but I think for what it had, it was a good deal. Even back then, I knew that. So I paid the guy 6.5. Chris, you had to go somewhere to pick up your missus or something.
I abandoned Jordan.
Yeah, Chris left me there. So
Jordan, it's the most dangerous suburb in Sydney.
Yeah, so I got left alone with this dodgy car in this really dodgy.
Now realising if he didn't take it, he couldn't have gotten home. So
I had no choice but to get it. But yeah, anyway, I bought the car, and I go straight to a servo around the corner. I fill up. I go to start the car, and it's not starting. It's just not starting at all. So I'm trying my best, and then I'm looking around. There's literal, like, actual junkies around me staring at me. Like, I was actually scared. I'm like, I'm done. That's it. I'm stuck here, and I was like so scared. Anyway, I took the key out, put it back in, started it, and yeah, the car started. Anyway, I thought, stuff it. I'm gonna try and get home. Went on the highway, drove around like 30-40 minutes plus home. And when I made it back to the area, I was like, you know what? Okay, the car's alright. It's driving. Then I started having some fun with it, like actually giving it hits and stuff, because I just babied it the whole way home because I was so scared. But it was a lot of anxiety, wasn't it, Chris?
How long were you driving that car around before you came to mine the second time? The same day you came?
Oh, actually, I think I was, yeah, the same day. And then I came to yours and we're just thrashing it around. I was just doing all these pulls, everything, and I'm like, you know what, it's alright.
That car lasted way more than what it should have.
I know. But yeah, we'll tell you guys later in the video what actually ended up happening to the car. But a lot of anxiety, a lot of red flags that I missed, but I was just very excited to get that car. And now after that, look what you've got, Chris.
Yeah.
This beast, and this is a VTIR B series, and this thing's gone up in price a lot as well. Like my EG, I paid 6.5. They're like 18-20k now with the whole setup. And I think we mentioned in a previous video, I'll link it here, when we first showed this car. But you got this a couple years ago. Was it as 8 grand?
It was 8,500. He had it for 10.5. Bargained him down to 8.5.
Yeah.
Which was excessive for the time being. I was very overpriced.
Yeah.
A year later, when COVID hit hard, they went up to 20 to 25.
Oof, that's it. And the prices just shot through the roof.
It was daylight robbery after that.
Yeah, well that's pretty much the story of getting the Civic, and you know, Chris's first-hand account.
Full circle moment now
on what happened. We're just gonna head home now, and I'll tell you guys the rest of the story. Alright guys, so I'm back home, and yeah, that was basically the story of going to get the car and buying it, and all the crazy stuff that happened trying to get it home. But right now we're gonna look at what happened after I got it home. So the photos you're looking at right now, this is after I brought the car home. So I just parked it in the driveway, and yeah, I was just frothing over it. And yeah, I don't know why I had 2 P plates in the back, don't ask me that. So after I got the car home, it was safe and sound, and I was basically comfortable that I could drive it around without it breaking, or somewhat comfortable. I took the car out and I started picking up some friends and showing off the car and showing them what it could do.
Oh shit!
So as you can hear, everyone really loved it. And this next clip you're gonna see is the very night I bought it as well, doing launch control and just having a whole lot of fun. A few days after I bought it, I decided to take it to a car meet. So I went to Harry DeWill's end of month meet at Liverpool KK's. If you know, you know, it's a mad car meet that do it every month. So yeah, here's a photo of it. I took the car there. And of course I had the engine bay pop showing off the amazing engine swap that was in there. And I even got a clip of me leaving that meet that night, which I'll put here as well. So for the first few weeks of owning the car, I was just really enjoying it. I was taking it out to meets and cruises and going for drives, and I've got some footage here. This is when I took it to Cornell with my friend Chris. So as you guys can see, we took some nice photos of it there at Cornell, and then I did a bit of a cheeky launch control going home. Overall, the car was doing all right. The only issue that I really had was it was starting to overheat, but it turns out the radiator fan was not working, so I went to a mechanic and got that fixed. Other than that, it was running pretty smoothly for the time being. But it was running smoothly up until it started having a power steering leak, and it was a really massive leak coming from the power steering pump. I'll show you guys some photos here. The whole entire engine block was just wet, like completely soaked in power steering fluid. As you can see, it was leaking from the top of the power steering pump right there. So this was the first time I properly attempted to fix something like mechanically on the car myself, so it was a pretty big deal. I still needed lots of help. I was messaging my friend Jason, who also had an EJ Civic back in the day, and he was helping me out, giving me a lot of tips on what I should be doing and looking for and stuff like that. So yeah, big shout out to Jason for helping me out there. And as you guys can see, I took off that top part of the power steering pump there, and I ended up changing an O-ring gasket in there, changed the O-ring, and that ended up fixing the issue. And yeah, I was pretty proud of myself for doing that, and yeah, it was definitely like one of the first times I properly worked on something mechanically. So yeah, it was a pretty good experience. So this picture that you're looking at now, it's at a car meet at Eastern Creek. I'm pretty sure it was like one of the tune meets back in the day. And yeah, I was parked next to my friend Muniz Sportivo, and on the way home we had a bit of fun as well, which I'll show you guys here. So after that, the only mods I really did to the car was I did a blue bend and tow hook install on the rear bar, and I also got the number plates for the car, which I really loved, which was 95 VTEC. So as you guys can see, it had the new plates on it, had the tow hook. The car looked really nice. I didn't really like the big yellow plates that it had on it, so having the white and black plates made it look a lot cleaner. Yeah, the car was then known as 95 VTEC. So a lot of you are probably wondering, this car sounds amazing. Like, why did you sell it? Why did you not hang on to it? Why do you still not have it to this day? Well, as it turns out, some of you guys might have noticed when I showed you guys the clip of me driving with that Sportivo, there was a lot of smoke coming out of the exhaust in the higher revs, right? Which I was used to it with my DC2, like VTEC smoke was a normal thing. But this is pretty excessive smoke that would come out of the EJ's exhaust every time I would give it a hit. Sometimes when I would start the car up as well and idle, even when it's not cold, yeah, it would just puff out smoke on idle, which wasn't a good sign. So I did some research, and it turned out that the valve stem seals on the car were definitely on their way out. So valve stem seals are a common problem in Hondas because they're very high revving engines, and a lot of people really like to bounce off limiter and thrash them really hard, which wears out the valve stem seals and causes that issue to happen. I wasn't really on limiter too much in this car, but I'm having a feeling some of the previous owners didn't treat it too well, and yeah, we're really bouncing off limiter a lot, which caused the valve stem seals issue, because this issue was happening since I bought it, but I didn't really pay too much attention to it until a lot of people started to point it out, because you don't really notice it when you're driving it, but everyone around you is looking at the car and saying, dude, there's a lot of smoke coming out of your exhaust. So then I started looking back at old videos and stuff and realizing, you know what? There is a decent amount of smoke, and that was when I came to the conclusion, basically. So basically, I knew I had this issue with the valve stem seals now, but I was still at uni, I was working at Kmart, and I did not have the money to fix valve stem seals at that time. Like, it would have been around, what, $2 grand, $2.5 grand to fix it, and I just could not afford to fix it. So I didn't really know how much longer the motor would last. I didn't want the engine to just blow up or something and then I can't afford to fix it at all and I just have a dead car there. So I just wanted to sell it and get rid of it because A, I couldn't fix the valve stem seals, and B, I was scared if the car would break even more, I wouldn't be in a good position money-wise. So because of that, unfortunately, as much as I love the car and as fun as it was, I just couldn't afford to fix it and I didn't want anything to break in the future. Put it up for sale, regrettably. As you guys know, I paid $6.5 grand for the car. I just couldn't sell it to someone for that price, knowing what was wrong with it. And guys, I sold the car for $4,000. 4 grand for all of this. Like, I look back now and I'm kicking myself, but I think I did the right thing. Like, I could have easily sold it for over 6 grand, you know, what I paid for it. But the next person that would buy it would have to spend 2.5 grand to fix the valve stem seals. So I took that into account with the pricing and obviously sold it for a lot cheaper, knowing that the car had that issue. So I did lose quite a bit of money on that car selling it for that price, but you know, just knowing that it had that issue, I didn't really feel like it was fair on the next person that would buy it. So yeah, I lost a bit of money. I lost the car that I really enjoyed. And yeah, it did not end up working out for me. So yeah, I was very sad that I had to sell the car and I had to sell it for so little as well. Like, I lost so much money on it. And looking back now, it's absolutely crazy. And in this current market, you can't even buy a D series EJ Civic for 4 grand. They're all like 8 grand plus. And that's just for like a completely stock D series EJ. And I sold my Type R engine EJ with Recaros, everything, 4 grand. Like right now, the Recaros are worth what I sold the car for. Like, I can't, like, and it gets even better, guys. So the car ended up going through quite a few owners after I sold it, and no one ever fixed the valve stem seals, and the car lasted for ages. It went through, I'd say, about another 5-6 owners, and I stayed in contact with a few other owners after I sold it, and they sent me videos of them absolutely thrashing this thing off its head, bouncing off limiter like crazy, and the car was taking it and it was fine. So I'll show you guys some of the videos here. So as you guys can see, this thing copped a whole lot of abuse after I sold it from all these different owners, and the engine was fine. But I guess it turns out I could have kept the car and I still could have kept driving it and enjoying it. I didn't know that the valve stem seals would have lasted that long. I had no idea, but yeah, as you guys can see, it turns out the motor lasted quite a lot longer than I thought. And one of the next few owners of the car actually lost their license in it. So as you guys can see here, so they sent me this photo. They got pulled over by the highway patrol. Apparently they even lost their license because it turns out the car wasn't even P-plate legal apparently because of the power to weight ratio. And I didn't even know. I was on my green P's at the time and I was driving the thing around. I didn't even know it wasn't even P-plate legal. But yeah, apparently the power to weight ratio made this thing actually illegal. So yeah, this guy lost his license unfortunately, but it made for a pretty cool photo and I had to chuck it in the thumbnail. So yeah, a bit of clickbait there. And yeah, I've got a few other photos from some other owners. So looks wise and engine wise, the car pretty much stayed the exact same through all the other owners that had it, kept the same number plates, everything like that. And at some stage, the car even ended up in Melbourne. I was on a Honda group like a year after selling the car, and I swear to God, I found a photo of this car in Melbourne with a kayak on its roof. Yeah, this photo tripped me out. Literally, the car looked the exact same, and it was literally in Melbourne. It ended up down in Melbourne somehow. And yeah, this guy was towing a kayak on its roof, which I found absolutely hilarious. But after that, I completely lost track of the car, and I'd say about half a year to a year later, I ended up finding on Facebook the engine for this car for sale on its own. And I had a look at the engine, and yeah, it was a B18 C7, and it looked exactly like my motor from this car. And I had a look at it, the kilometers matched up, all the bolt-on mods in it matched up, and then it said in the description, valve stem seals are gone. And I knew that that had to be my engine. I messaged the guy, exchanged photos, and it turns out it was 110% my motor. So this thing ended up getting parted out in Melbourne. The engine got parted out, all the other parts, the seats, the coilovers, the ECU, everything got parted out, and the car no longer exists. Just the same as my DC2. Both of them got parted out. So because this thing got parted out, any chance of me buying this car back at all is gone. Same thing with my DC2. And yeah, it's just such a shame because as you guys can see, this was such a fun car. I'd say it's one of the funnest cars I've ever owned and one of the quickest cars I've ever owned. But yeah, because of the issue with the valve stem seals and my financial situation at the time, I just couldn't afford to keep it and fix it. But it is kind of sad for me to know that I definitely could have kept the car for so much longer, because yeah, as I said, it went through so many owners, it took so much more thrashing, and yeah, the car was fine. It actually took it for quite some time. So yeah, looking back, it's like I do definitely regret selling this car, but yeah, I think financially I wasn't in the right state to own it. It was a whole lot of fun, and yeah, the prices of these things have gone up so much. So the fact that I sold it for $4,000, I'm just kicking myself looking at it in today's current market as well. And another sad thing as well, all of the cars that I've ever sold are gone. I'm talking every single one of them are written off or parted out. I'm not even joking. I don't know if it's a curse or something. My DC2, my first car, got parted out. My EJ Civic parted out. My Subaru got written off. And my Lancer, the CE Lancer that we painted on the channel, I'll link it right up here, that car got written off as well. So all of the cars that I've owned and sold in the past are gone. So yeah, the Triple S, I don't know if I want to sell it because I don't want to send that thing to certain death. So I don't know if I'm cursed or something with selling cars. So yeah, it's definitely a sad thing because I always want to buy back some of my old cars that I've sold, but I'm never going to have that chance because they're all gone. Alright guys, so I'll leave the video there. I really hope you guys enjoyed me, taking you guys on a trip down memory lane with my old EJ Civic. It was definitely a special car and it holds a special place in my heart. And if you guys enjoyed, as always, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out and do me a solid. And I appreciate all of you guys for all of the support that you guys give and all the love that you've shown on all my videos. I really appreciate each and every single one of you. So I'll leave the video there and I'll see you guys next time on That Car Life.